Where in the world are you watching this from and what time is it? Subscribe now because this story won't just entertain you. It might haunt you. I never planned for this moment. Not in a million years. If someone had told me that a hospital room would be where I'd have to face the deepest heartbreak of my life, I would have laughed it off. But here I was sitting in the sterile, cold waiting room, the sound of heart monitors in the background, my thoughts racing through a labyrinth of past mistakes, dreams unfulfilled, and promises I had broken. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He wasn't supposed to be lying unconscious in that bed. He wasn't supposed to be in this hospital fighting for his life, and I wasn't supposed to feel like this. But I did. I don't know how to explain it, but somehow it felt like everything that had happened to us, our love, our separation, our collision with the past, had led to this moment. He'd always been my undoing, the one person who could stir the chaos in me, and now here I was watching it all come crashing down. I should have been strong. I should have been prepared. After all, it wasn't like I didn't know the weight of loss. My mother had always said, "You'll never know how strong you are until the world takes everything you love." She had no idea how right she was. But what my mother never warned me about, what no one ever did, was how deeply the wounds of the past could bleed into the present, how it could twist everything. And standing there, in that cold, unforgiving space, I was suddenly taken back to my childhood. The memories were raw, my father with his never-ending expectations, always telling me that I wasn't good enough. Nothing was ever enough. Not my grades, not my smile, not my love. All of it always fell short. My mother, too, had a certain look in her eyes when I failed. It was a silent reproach that stung worse than any words could. That's how I ended up in this place now, isn't it? I never wanted to disappoint anyone again. But somehow, with him I always did. He was never supposed to be my escape, but I let him be. And now this. I remember the first time I saw him, there was something about the way he looked at me, something that made me feel like he saw the real me, all the flaws and cracks that I'd hidden so carefully. For a while I believed we were meant to be, that maybe this time I'd finally find a place to belong. I never imagined it would lead to this kind of pain. But pain has a funny way of showing up, doesn't it? You think you're over something that you've healed, and then out of nowhere it all comes flooding back. When she walked into that room, I felt my heart stop. The way she looked at me with that look, the one that said everything and nothing at once, there was no mistaking it. Her eyes met mine, and without saying a word, she became something I would never forget. She was his new girlfriend, and she wasn't here just to sit in the background. She made sure to tell the nurse loud enough for everyone to hear. "I am his wife now." Those words felt like a slap, cold and sharp. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there frozen. My throat tightened, but I couldn't speak. Then the doctor walked in, and for a moment everything stopped. "Mrs. my last name, what should we do?" he asked, his voice so matter-of-fact, so clinical. The silence in that room was deafening. And in that moment, as I watched her face, the face of the woman who would take my place, the weight of everything I hadn't said to him, everything I hadn't done for myself, hit me like a wave. I didn't answer him. I couldn't. What could I say? I wasn't his wife. I wasn't anything to him anymore. Not in the way I had once hoped. But she was, and she was everything I never could be. The guilt and the shame wrapped around me like a vice. I should have been the one there by his side. I should have been the one making decisions. But somehow I wasn't. And the worst part was I wasn't sure if I even had the right to be. And that's when it happened. The silence that lingered between us was thick, almost suffocating. Her eyes, those eyes that had once seemed so familiar to me, now seemed so foreign. And I knew deep down that nothing would ever be the same. Not for me. Not for him. And definitely not for her. The unease was like a slow, creeping shadow, something that settled in the pit of my stomach, heavy and dark. I looked at the doctor, and before he could say anything more, I turned and walked away. Felt like the only thing I could do. But the moment I left that room, I could still hear her voice in my head. "I'm his wife now." Her words echoing in my ears, the finality of them. And I don't know if I'll ever be able to forget them, or the look on her face as she said them. Something inside me is broken, but there's more to come. And I know it. Because this is just the beginning. I couldn't breathe. The moment I stepped out of that room, away from the doctor's sterile gaze, away from her cold words, everything seemed to spiral. I told myself to calm down, to think clearly, but how could I? Everything felt too heavy. The walls of the hospital pressed in on me, suffocating me. The air, the space, it all felt wrong, like it was closing in. The footsteps behind me were quick, too quick, as if they were chasing me. But I didn't turn around. I didn't want to face anyone right now. Not her. Not him. Not anyone. The hallway stretched out in front of me, but it might as well have been 1,000 miles long. I just wanted to get away. I needed to escape from all of it, from the weight of everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. From the life I thought I had built, the life I thought I deserved. When I left, I thought I was running away from them, him, her, the doctor, but in reality I was running from myself. And that's when I saw her again. My mother. I didn't expect to see her, not here, not now, but there she was, standing at the end of the hall, her face unreadable. For a moment she looked almost ghostly, like a vision I wasn't meant to see. But there she was, the woman who had spent so many years trying to teach me how to survive this world, how to not need anyone, how to keep my heart locked away. But as I walked toward her, her gaze was anything but reassuring. It was almost as if she knew deep down that I had already lost. "You should be with him," she said, her voice calm, too calm. "You've always known what he meant to you." Her words were like a slap. I wanted to scream at her, to tell her how everything had fallen apart, how I had tried so hard to be good enough, to be worthy of love, but all I could do was nod. A part of me had always feared she would be right. But even in that moment I realized how much I hated the way she always made me feel small, always made me question everything I was doing, everything I believed. And suddenly I was that girl again, the one who spent years under her watchful eye, second-guessing every decision, every choice. I couldn't help but wonder if she was right, if I was wrong all along. The guilt, the self-doubt, it all clawed at me. I had never been good enough for her, and maybe I wasn't good enough for him either. Maybe I had always been running from the wrong thing. The past, with all its ghosts, had a way of catching up to you when you least expected it. And then, like some twisted reminder, I found myself in front of the same hospital vending machine where I had once sat with him years ago. It was like stepping back in time, back to the days when everything was simpler. Back when I thought we were invincible, that love could fix everything. I could almost see him there, sitting beside me, laughing as he shared his dreams, his hopes. But now, all that was left was this empty machine and the echo of his absence. I thought back to 5 years ago, what had really happened between us? The arguments, the silence, the distance that had slowly crept in between us. And then I remembered the night I found the letter. The letter he never meant for me to read. It had been hidden in the bottom drawer of his desk, tucked between old notebooks and unused pens. I didn't want to open it, but I did. And when I did, it shattered everything I thought I knew. The letter was from her. The woman who had taken his heart long before I even realized it. The woman who had been waiting in the wings, watching, plotting. It wasn't just a letter, it was a confession. She had been with him for years. Not just some fling, but something real. Something deep. And I had been a fool. I had always believed he was mine, that he would choose me, but I hadn't even seen the truth, hadn't even noticed the cracks in our relationship. I had let myself get lost in the idea of him. And when I confronted him about it, the betrayal in his eyes was something I would never forget. But what hurt more than his lies was my own role in it. My own ignorance. I had been so focused on holding on to him, on fixing what was broken, that I hadn't seen how broken I was. I hadn't seen how much I needed to fix myself before I could ever truly be with anyone. The truth, the painful, ugly truth, started to sink in. I wasn't the victim here. Not anymore. I was blind. I had been blind to so much. His manipulation, my own mistakes, the way I let my insecurities tear me apart. Everything I thought I knew about love, about trust, about what I deserved was a lie. And now here I was again in this hospital, staring at the woman who had shattered my world. I don't even know when she left, but when I looked up she was gone. The silence she left behind was deafening, and I could feel my heart breaking all over again. This time it wasn't just for him. It was for me. And as the weight of it all settled on my chest, I realized something else, something darker. I didn't know who I was anymore. I didn't know what I was fighting for. The woman I had been, the person I thought I could trust, was slipping away, and all I could do was watch. I don't know how long I stood there, lost in thought, but when I finally turned around it felt like the world had shifted. The truth, my truth, was unraveling, and there was no turning back. What was real anymore? Who was I really? And as I tried to steady myself, I heard it. The sound of a phone buzzing in my pocket. I pulled it out, my hands trembling. A message. From him. But it wasn't what I expected. It wasn't what I thought I needed. I need to talk. Now. Please. I froze. Everything that had happened, everything I thought I knew about us, it all felt like a lie. And that message was the moment everything I thought I understood shattered into 1,000 pieces. I stared at the phone for what felt like an eternity. His words seemed to burn into the screen, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. What was there to say? How could I even begin to process what was happening? Everything had changed. Everything. And yet I still didn't know what was real anymore. I felt the weight of the message pressing down on me, suffocating me. But I couldn't let it consume me, not anymore. Not when I knew what I had to do. The woman I once was, fragile, emotional, reactive, she was gone. Somewhere between the hospital room and that damned message, I had shed that skin. I didn't need to cry anymore. I didn't need to beg for answers. I was done with being the victim. I didn't know when the switch had flipped, but it had. Maybe it was the moment my mother's face appeared, cold and knowing, or when I found that letter. Or maybe it was when I realized that everything I had built my life around had been a lie. But I knew one thing for sure. The time for feeling sorry for myself was over. The time for rage, for being lost, for being weak, it was done. I was going to make him feel everything I felt. I was going to make them all feel it. As I sat in the quiet of my apartment, the message buzzing again in my hand, I couldn't help but think of all the times I had trusted the wrong people. All the times I had given my heart, my time, my soul to people who didn't deserve it. My mother, always so distant, so cold, had never cared the way a mother should. She had taught me to be strong, yes, but she had also taught me that love was a transaction, a way to get what you wanted. I had always craved her approval, always tried to prove to her that I was worth something, that I could be more than what she expected of me. But now I saw it clearly. I wasn't just her daughter. I was a pawn in her game. And then there was him. He had been my everything. But he had lied to me. The letter had been his confession, yes, but it was also a betrayal. A betrayal that went deeper than anything I could have imagined. He hadn't just been cheating on me with her. He had been planning to leave me for her, planning a life I wasn't even a part of. But the part that stung the most, the part that twisted the knife in my chest, was the realization that I had never really mattered to him. I had been his safety net, his backup. He had always known he could come back to me whenever things with her didn't work out. And I had let him. I had let him think I was weak enough to take him back. But I wasn't weak. Not anymore. I wasn't going to let them get away with this. I wasn't going to let anyone take anything from me ever again. The rage inside me was starting to build. It started small, like a spark in the pit of my stomach, but it grew quickly, spreading through my chest, my arms, my legs, until it consumed me completely. I needed a plan. A way to make him see what he had done to me. What they had both done to me. I couldn't just confront him. That wouldn't work. He would apologize, promise things would change, and I would fall for it again. No, this time I had to be smarter. I had to make him feel the weight of his choices. And I wasn't going to do it alone. I thought about my mother. How she had always been there, watching me, pushing me to be strong, but never offering any real support. She had always been too focused on her own life, her own problems, to care about me. She wasn't just cold. She was manipulative. She had always had a hand in my decisions, in my relationships, even if I hadn't seen it until now. And now I saw her for who she really was. She had always known. She had always known what was happening between us, between me and him, and she had never said a word. The truth was right there, staring me in the face. She had wanted this. She had wanted me to fail. She had wanted me to be hurt. And maybe, just maybe, she was the one who had been feeding me these lies all along, slowly poisoning my mind until I couldn't tell where reality ended and my own fears began. I was tired of it. Tired of being controlled, tired of being used. I needed to confront her. But I didn't want to be emotional about it. I couldn't afford to be. I had to be calm, controlled. I had to get the information I needed, the pieces of the puzzle that would make everything fall into place. And then I could move on with my plan. It wasn't going to be easy. In fact, it was going to be the hardest thing I had ever done. But I didn't care anymore. I didn't care about what anyone thought, about what anyone expected from me. I was done being the victim. I was done playing by their rules. This was my fight now, and I wasn't going to stop until I had taken everything back. I walked out of my apartment that night with a purpose. I had made my decision. I wasn't just going to confront my mother. I was going to confront them all. I was going to take back the control that had been stolen from me. But first I needed to get answers. Real answers. And there was one place I hadn't looked yet. His phone. The one thing I hadn't been able to crack. But now I had a plan. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I slipped into his apartment like a shadow, moving with quiet, practiced steps. His phone was where it always was, charging on the kitchen counter. I reached for it, heart pounding, hand steady. This was it. This was where the truth would finally come to light. But as my fingers hovered over the screen, I felt a sharp chill run down my spine. Something wasn't right. The phone buzzed. The screen lit up. A message. But not from him. It was from her. The words were clear. He's not who you think he is. And that's when I stopped being afraid. I read the message again. He's not who you think he is. I wasn't sure if the words were burning me, or if they had opened a door to a cold, relentless truth that I had been too blind to see before. Her words, they were like a slap in the face, and yet they made everything click. I had spent months, no years, thinking I was the one who had been wronged, thinking he was my everything, my savior. But this was the final piece of the puzzle, the truth I had been avoiding. She knew. She had known all along. He had been playing us both. No, not just playing us, manipulating us, using us as tools in his sick game of control. And I had been so desperate for love, for approval, that I didn't see the strings tied around me, pulling me in whichever direction he wanted. I wasn't just a victim in this story. I was complicit in my own betrayal. And now I had to face that. I wasn't sure what came first, the anger or the ice that was slowly creeping into my veins. But I knew something had shifted. I was done crying over things that didn't matter. Done feeling helpless. Done letting everyone walk all over me. My mind raced, 1,000 plans flickering through my head like the speed of light. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about control. About taking back what was rightfully mine. About making sure no one ever dared to play with me again. I was done being afraid. And that realization, that harsh, painful clarity, burned with a power I didn't know I had inside me. The first step in my plan was to make him come to me. To make him think I was still that girl who couldn't live without him. That girl who would crawl back to him no matter how many times he crushed me. So I played my part. I texted him pretending everything was fine. Pretending I had forgiven him. Pretending that I still believed in his lies. The phone call came a few hours later. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice thick with the same remorse I had heard so many times before. "I fucked up. I didn't mean to hurt you. I was confused. But I love you. We can fix this, okay?" And I almost laughed. I almost laughed right in his face. But I didn't. Because this time I had the upper hand. I wasn't just some wounded, broken girl anymore. I was the woman who had been awakened, who had seen the truth in all its ugliness. And the truth was that he had never loved me. He loved control. He loved having someone to fall back on when things with her didn't work out. But I wasn't that someone anymore. Not now. Not ever. "We'll talk," I said calmly, letting the silence stretch between us. I could hear the uncertainty in his voice, the hesitancy. But I didn't care. This was my game now. "Let's meet at my place," I suggested. "I think we need to talk face to face." He agreed, of course, because why wouldn't he? He thought this was just another one of those times where he could fix everything with a few sweet words and promises he'd never keep. The second part of my plan came into play when he showed up at my door, expecting to find the woman who had been broken, who was begging for answers. What he found instead was something far worse. The woman he had underestimated. He entered my apartment, a little too eager, a little too smug. His eyes searched for me like he always did, looking for signs of weakness, searching for cracks in my armor. But I wasn't the same girl anymore. I stood in the doorway, eyes locked on his, my heart pounding with a mixture of rage and relief. This was it. This was the moment I would take back my life, take back my power. "Sit down," I said, my voice steady, my hands folded in front of me. He did, of course. He sat, and for a moment, there was nothing but the sound of our breaths in the room. It was almost too quiet. But I didn't break the silence. Not yet. I had to do this right. I had to let him believe he was still in control just for a moment longer. "I'm glad you came," I said softly, my voice almost like a caress. He smiled, that same cocky grin I had once loved so much, but I saw the flicker of doubt in his eyes. He was already starting to wonder what was going on. "I know I messed up, but I want to make it right," he said, leaning forward, his gaze softening. It made me sick, but I didn't show it. Instead, I took a deep breath, my hands trembling just a little. I had to remember why I was doing this. I had to remember what I had learned. "You think you can just fix it, don't you?" I asked, my voice cutting through the tension like a knife. He looked taken aback, confused. "What are you talking about?" I didn't answer right away. Instead, I walked to the counter, grabbed the letter, and placed it in front of him. "What's this?" I asked coldly. His eyes flickered to it and back to me, and I could see the panic start to rise. You shouldn't have read that," he stammered. But it was too late. The damage was done. "You think I'm stupid?" I asked, my voice a low, dangerous whisper. "You think I wouldn't figure it out?" I watched the color drain from his face as the truth sank in. His lies, his betrayal, they were all out in the open now. The letter, the phone messages, everything had come together in a perfect storm, and I was standing right in the middle of it. "You've been playing me the whole time, haven't you?" I asked, my heart pounding in my chest. "Me and her. You were never really with me. You were just waiting for her to come back. And when she did, you threw me away. Just like that." The truth was ugly, but it felt so good to finally say it out loud. His face twisted with guilt, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to make up for the years of lies, for the years of pain he had put me through. I wasn't interested in his apologies anymore. "It's over," I said flatly. "You and me. It's over. Don't ever come back." And that was when he tried to apologize again, tried to reach for me like he always did. But this time I didn't flinch. I didn't step back. I didn't give him the satisfaction. Instead, I turned away. I wasn't going to play his game anymore. I wasn't going to let him control me, not for another second. I thought I was the one who had been broken," I said, more to myself than to him, my voice barely a whisper. "But now I see. I was the one who was in control all along. And you never even knew it." I didn't look back at him as I walked to the door, opening it slowly. He hesitated for a moment, but I didn't say another word. I just watched him walk out of my life for the last time. And as I closed the door behind him, I finally let myself breathe. The weight of everything that had happened, the lies, the manipulation, the pain, all of it was lifting off me. I didn't need him anymore. I didn't need any of them. I was finally free. I took one last look at the apartment, at the life I was leaving behind. But I wasn't looking for closure anymore. I was looking for my future. My real future. And that's when I realized, standing there in the quiet of the apartment, that I had already won. I had won by walking away. And if you stayed this long, you already know this wasn't just a story. This was a warning. Subscribe. And remember me.